Well done, Giles. Well, we've nearly come to the end of this election campaign, but you may not have made up your mind who you're going to vote for. Or would you consider voting none of the above? The last of our smaller parties thinks you should be given the option. The Above and Beyond Party was only established this year. It has only one policy, demanding a none of the above option on all UK ballot papers. They'll have 5 candidates standing in tomorrow's election. They currently have 488 followers on Twitter. And finally, the party raised funds for the election through holding a series of Above Beyond music nights. And Tammy Rendell, one of the Above and Beyond candidates, joins us now. Why is it so important to have none of the above?
So I think it's quite a fundamental right that if you ask a question, it needs to be fair. So we need to have the right to say both yes and no. So essentially, none of the above gives people the option forwards to always have the option to say no. But
why is that necessary when you can spoil your ballot paper in that sense?
So in terms of spoiling your ballot paper, it gets counted in as a non-vote. So really, none of the above would allow us to quantify what a protest or an opposition vote is.
So it would count as a vote?
Yes, and it is about essentially having your right to use your vote rather than have to spoil your ballot paper.
I mean, do you think it would just be too easy for people to tick none of the above, particularly when we're talking about how disengaged people are?
It's still someone's vote. It's just as easy to tick one of the other boxes because you feel like you've got no choice. So in that sense, I think it should be there as, a fair right so that the ballot paper is equal.
What about encouraging people, spending time to encourage people to get involved, or at least encourage them to learn more about the other parties?
So that's one of the reasons why I'm running. So I'm quite an ordinary person with 2 children. And just the last day I decided to run just to help inspire, especially young people, to start moving into Parliament because I believe in a representational Parliament.
What do you think about none of the above?
I think it's great that people are trying to encourage more people to get involved in it. Personally, I'd only go for the none of the above option if we coupled it with compulsory voting. It'd be quite a good idea.
Compulsory voting, yes or no?
I'm more for. No, I don't think you can make anything compulsory. You still have the right to refrain, and that's what it's essentially about: using your rights. Just the same as you get in a law court. Yeah. What I would say is that. Essentially, I just think they're fundamental rights. We got the right to vote in 1969, and this is now the next step forward.
Donald, we briefly touched on the debates in the earlier discussion, the TV debates, the head-to-head, whether or not they would be a good idea. Are we going to have to go through this again, do you think, for the next election, or should something be done?
I think something desperately needs to be done. I think this time was a complete mess. Some of them were great, but it was very ill-formed. I think what we need to do is, in a time of peace, just like when we drew up the rules about cabinet manuals, which will help us through this, ahead of the next election, let's have a principled view about what we don't know where the different parties will be. Let's sort out some principles which will ensure that the debates are fair and engage people in politics and really make them want to vote. I think that's the answer. Some kind of commission,
like America.
Indeed, like America. Take it out of the hands, to be fair, of the broadcasters and the politicians.
So it
both
happens every time, or no?
In the interest of the public, the voters, let's have a proper commission.
Took America a long while to get there, though.
Indeed, and it seems to be taking us a long time to get to a good position as well.
But a lot of time was spent, obviously, on debating the debates, as we coined the phrase in the end, didn't we?
Right.
Rendell, thank you very much for coming as our final smaller party of the general election campaign for the BBC.
Thanks to all of our guests for today. Now, Joe and I will be back at 2 p.m. for our final daily politics debate. This one is about trust in politics. We'll be joined by William Hague for the Conservatives, Harriet Harman for Labour, and representatives from the Lib Dems, UKIP and the SNP. So grab a sandwich. We'll see you then, and then, of course, we'll be back on tomorrow night on BBC One from 9:55 with a 22-hour marathon broadcast.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, remember.